In this video, I'm going to sew the bottom panel onto my fanny pack, and I'm sewing the bottom panel to the front and pocket panel that have been serged together at the bottom. I've already pinned it, and I'm going to sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to start in the middle, and I'll work my way out, and then again, I'll start in the middle and work my way out the other direction. It really helps if your pins are pinned perpendicular to the edge, so that means that they're at a cross, right, 90-degree angle, because then, however I sew, I can always access those pins, and they're not in my way. So I'm going to get my threads out of the way. I'm going to find my middle line that I marked on my bottom panel, or if you don't have that marked, you can always find that line that you sewed in the middle for your pocket divider. And I'm going to line up the edge of my presser foot with the edge of my fabric right there. I'll move this pin out of the way so it's not going to get in my way. And before I get started, because I am sewing a curved piece to a straight piece, it can be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to use this button. And when I press that button, that means that my needle will always end in the down position. So if I press my foot pedal right here, you can see my needle ends down. So that makes it a little bit easier if I have to lift up my presser foot and adjust anything, because I'm not going to lose my place. My fabric will stay there, but I can still lift up my presser foot. Okay? So again, edge of my fabric is lined up with the edge of my presser foot. I'm going at 1/4 inch seam allowance starting in the middle, and I'm going to back stitch here. And then I'm going to just sew all the way down and around. As I sew, I'll pull out any pins in the way. If I see a tuck coming, I will stop and adjust. I can lift up my presser foot because my needle will end down. And I also want to be careful because my serging is 1/4 inch. Usually it's about 1/4 inch. And my seam allowance is 1/4 inch. So if I go any shorter than 1/4 inch, then you will see that serging on the outside of my bag. So just be careful of that. Keep a really true 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm sewing towards the end of my bag. I'll go ahead and back stitch. And then I'm going to press this button up here again so that I can get my foot pedal up. I'll touch my foot pedal one time and it will end with my needle up. And I'm going to go ahead and trim these threads. Look at how I did, and if I feel good about it, I'll move on to the other side. So I'm going to take a look here, just double check that I don't have a lot of serging showing through. I don't see any of my serging right here. You can see that. That's where it's sewn. That's where I just sewed. So I'm good to start on the other side. I'm going to start in the middle again, and I'll sew my way out. And the reason we are doing this is because we are sewing a curve. And curves can be really tricky. Sometimes you think everything's lined up, and then you go through your curve, and it just keeps adjusting and adjusting, and you have way more of your bottom panel or your front panel, like an inch more on the end. So by starting in the middle and working our way out, we're avoiding that kind of problem happening. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the middle. I'll pull my threads back. I'll line up right on top of where I've already done my back stitching, and I'm going to press this button again. I'll go ahead and zoom in for you, and I'm going to back stitch and continue forward. So the nice thing about when I pin perpendicular to the edge is even though my pins are on the other side, I can still see them and pull them out as I'm going. Okay, I'm going to back stitch once I get to the end, and then I'll press my button up here again, touch my foot pedal one time, and I'll end with my needle in the up position. I'll trim these threads, and again, double check that the seam turned out the way I want it to. So I'm going to look in here, make sure I don't see any of the serging coming through. And if I like the way it looks, then I'm ready to move on. My fanny pack is coming together.